Welcome to Tagged Beyond the Award, the podcast that celebrates innovation, excellence, and leadership. Each episode dives into inspiring stories behind the nominees and winners of the TAG Awards, uncovering the breakthroughs, challenges, and triumphs that define their journey. Whether it's cutting-edge technology, transformative products, or visionary leadership, we're here to explore what it means to stand out and shape the future of your industry. Let's go beyond the award and into the heart of innovation. Here's your host, Justin Starbird.
Welcome back to the Tagged Beyond the Award podcast, where we spotlight the technologies rewriting the rules of MedTech innovation. Today, we're speaking with Adrian Mendes, CEO of Perimeter Medical Imaging AI, the team behind one of the most disruptive advances in surgical imaging today. Perimeter didn't just win in their category for medical devices under the subcategory of surgical imaging and AI integration. They were named top innovator at the inaugural TAG Awards for MedTech 2025. Their OCT system with Image Assist AI is more than an incremental upgrade. It is a breakthrough that's changing how surgeons operate, delivering unprecedented real-time clarity to help achieve clearer margins and better outcomes. In an industry where seconds count and precision saves lives, Perimeter is setting a new standard. Today, Adrian is going to take us inside the innovation that's reshaping surgical oncology and what it takes to lead in a field where the stakes couldn't be higher. Adrian, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Justin. It's great to be here.
It's exciting, man. Congratulations. Top innovator of the inaugural TAG Awards. So happy to have you guys as part of the program.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be recognized by your team and the industry in general. We got a whole team of engineers here, and obviously much more than just engineers, but working really hard on this, for a long time. So with a company like ours, you develop technology under the hood. You then you bring it out into the world, and you start to work with customers on it. And then people in the industry start to notice. So it's nice for the entire team to start to get that recognition now.
Yeah. How long did it take? How long? I mean, something like this in MedTech, takes years, but for
Yeah.
those that aren't as familiar as what happens behind the scenes, what was the timeline?
Well, the company was founded about 10 years ago in Toronto. And of course it's a technology company, so it starts with technology, having an idea and then developing on it. And like everything else, multiple iterations to get to where you're going. Of course, with medical devices, one of the challenges is you have to get, we sell within the United States, so you have to get regulatory approval. So the FDA needs to review a product before it can bring it onto market. So there was a period of development of the technology to get not only the imaging. I mean, we make an imaging device, so not only to get the imaging to create the technology to create the pictures we want it to take, but also to make it usable enough for surgeons in the operating room to be able to use it in real time. So we got what they call 510(k) clearance on our current generation device, which allows companies to start to market that device into the marketplace.
Sure.
So we got our first 510 clearance of that device towards the end of 2021. So that was about 6 years after the company was founded. And we've been going ever since.
That's exciting. And talk a little bit about who uses it, what is it for? I know in the opening, talk a little bit about some of the use cases, but really, what was it developed for?
Yeah. So the current device we have on market has what we call a general indication label on it that's authorized by the FDA. And so let me just talk about the technology just for a moment.
Sure.
It's an imaging technology which is able to allow the user to visualize subcellular structures. Okay, so basically the first device we have or actually more cellular structure, not quite subcellular, but cellular structures in the 10 to 15 micron range. So that allows surgeons, which is who we first developed it for, to be able to visualize inside tissue during an operation in real time so they can make clinical decisions based off of whatever they see inside that tissue on the screen. A great application for that generally, and this is where many of the users of our current technology use it for, is within cancer surgeries and most of them are in the breast cancer space. And so they use that to look within what they call the margin of the excised tissue to understand what is inside that several millimeter margin, which is a very important thing for those surgeons to determine whether they have a successful surgery or not. So this is a tool that helps them with that. And that's really what we had in mind when we were developing it. For that, to that end, you need a few things. You need to be able to visualize very small features inside the tissue. You need to be able to penetrate a few millimeters into the tissue. And so the engineers in the early days were really focused on being able to get that right. And with this first generation device, I think we hit a point where we were able to show that, and we're getting some pretty strong uptake by surgeons out there today.
Sure. And you're continuing to iterate. One of the things that makes Perimeter so special is that you continue to improve on, what you've done. It's not like a, one shot deal. You're about to come out with, the next series that can go even deeper and wider, no?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got various technology projects that we work on within the company. I talked about the imaging. So that imaging device is an entire field of expertise or discipline for us that we continue to push the envelope on. Um, and that's what's being used in the what we call our current product, which called the S series. That's our current product. We have
Yeah.
a next generation product in development, which is not yet approved by the FDA for use. However, we ran a clinical trial on it um, that completed at the end of last year. And that clinical trial hit its endpoints. And so right now we're working with the FDA through a PMA approval process to get it approved, hopefully later this year. What that device does is take that basic imaging technology that I talked about earlier, and it adds an artificial intelligence layer on top of it. And the simplest way of thinking about that is it's an assistant. It's an AI assistant that helps a surgeon find suspicious things in the image and highlight them to the surgeon. So the surgeon, instead of having to search the entire set of images captured, from the thing they just scanned, they can
Mhm.
immediately look at the much smaller subset that the AI has flagged, and then just make decisions based off of those images alone. So with that, of course, our AI team's been in place for a while now developing that, but that's an entire another track of development and innovation that we can now continue on once this product hits market, and then into the future after that.
What is it like leading folks that are doing this sort of stuff? Like, as CEO, I know you came on more recently. It hasn't been since the beginning, but you must have looked at this team and said, "Holy smokes, I can't wait to see what they can do next."
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. I'm an engineer by education, and I've spent my career in technology companies. So this is kind of in my wheelhouse. And I love work with engineers and working on technology, inventing, I mean, basically, inventing new things that have an application, solving a problem that really hasn't been solved before or has been solved in an imperfect way. So it's very exciting. And one of the things that's great about that is it allows these really, really smart engineers and scientists and technologists to get super creative with how to solve those problems. So one of the beautiful things about AI is the state of the art is moving so quickly
Yeah.
that you don't have to develop all of that in-house, but you can leverage all of the work being done around the world, especially with open source these days, to really speed up your development. So now not only do you have your internal team who's highly motivated by the mission that we've got and is working on very cool and interesting technology, but to some extent they've got an entire body of engineers and scientists and smart people behind them developing in the open source world, helping them move the perimeter mission forward.
Yeah.
So extremely exciting. Every day there's some new challenge. There's some new problem that we're solving. It's great. It's really, really great.
Yeah, and our judges thought very similarly. They said, that it's a well-designed, forward-looking imaging device, has strong potential to reduce reoperations and improve clinical outcomes. Another said, compelling opportunities, clinical trial results are they're waiting with bated breath. And then another said it's beneficial to patients, surgeons, and the broader healthcare system, and they can't wait for the evolution as it continues to change. So, man, really, really neat.
Yeah, the nice thing about this product, the next generation product that we've got running through the PMA approval right now, is it does have an AI layer
Hmm.
algorithm attached to it, which allows it to get better over time. Okay, so if you just go back to basics on AI, there's an algorithm that's, doing the thinking, the learning, and then the inferring, but it's all operating on data, on an image library in our case. And as that image library gets bigger with every new image that we add to it. And as the state of the art algorithms get better, we can successively introduce new algorithms into the market trained on even more data that's more advanced. And as the hardware, the computer chips and the hardware gets smarter, it can run even faster. So it ends up being a continuous improvement loop built on the back of the way we all know that artificial intelligence works, which is always getting better and better, which is very, very interesting and actually exciting for a medical device because every patient that goes through that, allows us to use the images captured to help feed into the algorithms are helping future patients that have the same affliction that they may have. So we see this very exciting thing where the innovation doesn't stop once you bring it to market, then you go back to ground zero and start again. It
Which is such
continues to
that
get
turns the
improved.
whole med tech space on its head, right? I mean, thinking about historically, it takes, years to get something approved. And then, once it's approved, you're already working on the next thing because it's, you're generally speaking, have been previously working with technology that's outdated.
Yeah.
So now that flips the whole paradigm.
Very exciting, right? If you think about the speed at which artificial intelligence, the state of the art is moving, it's so fast. Now, of course, there's a flip side to that with medical devices is it does involve medicine and people's health. And so you have to be very careful about what you bring to market. And it's a regulated industry. So the FDA plays a very strong role in making sure that what companies bring to market are going to have benefits.
Yeah.
And so that has a natural slowing down with which you can bring new technologies to market. Um, and so what's very interesting about this, is that you have to have safety in place, which means you can't move too fast. But there is a recognition throughout the industry, the regulators and the industry and patients and the physicians that, hey, this tech can actually help uh, very, very quickly and move the ball very, very fast. So there's a real sort of excitement about how this can help patients tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And so right now the industry is trying to figure out how to balance that. It's not an easy problem. But from our standpoint, what we do is we just continue to develop as best as we can the technology to meet the goals that we have that we work on with our physicians. And then we navigate through the regulatory system, which we see every day as becoming more and more attuned to this ability to speed up the ability for companies like us to bring tech to market, which is very encouraging for us to see that the regulators understand that this is it's very, very important for patients to be able to get access to this advanced tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I shared what some of the judges think and felt about reviewing your submission and, what's coming. What has been the initial reaction from your community, clinicians, doctors, patients, to, what you've done and how has that, changed since you got started?
Yeah, it's been very positive, and it's that just continues to grow since I joined to now. It's been about 2 years now. Um, Uh, so what's happened with our technology? So just to remind you, the technology we've got on the market doesn't have the artificial intelligence, but does have the advanced imaging. We call it OCT. It's called OCT imaging, optical coherence tomography. So it has that advanced imaging, which provides those surgeons in the operating room the ability to see those very, very small structures in the tissue they're looking at, and with that, make their clinical decisions. Okay, so we've been building out our user base. Every new surgeon we get in place starts to use it. They start to see the advantage of it, and they use it more and more on more and more of their patients. Um, that word starts to spread within the community.
Mhm.
The problem that they are solving with our technology is a large problem within the cancer surgery community. So they start to talk about it. Their peers see how they're using it. They see the benefits they're getting out of it, and then they get interested, and then they talk to us and say, "Hey, we'd like to, see if this is beneficial to our practice." There are conferences that we go to every year that, one big one is the American Society of Breast Cancer Surgeons or breast surgeons. ASBRS, and in those, we present our technology, and this just builds. It's a momentum. It's a flywheel. Every new surgeon you get that has a positive experience tells a few of their friends, and then their colleagues, and then they start to use us, and they tell a few of theirs, and so there's great excitement around that on the current generation. And what's even more exciting and more, the community's getting even more and more excited about this is the fact that we successfully hit our endpoints on a clinical trial. And everyone knows that this is now running through an FDA approval cycle. So they can see that light at the end of the tunnel to get AI. What that is doing for them is getting them, there is what AI does is it increases the ease of use of the tech. So you get a complicated technology and then you put an AI assistant on it, it makes it far easier and far more accessible for everyone to use. So what this is the excitement around this next generation product is with those surgeons who are saying, "Oh, wow, I can use this and learn how to use it much quicker than before and use it with much less time in the operating room. I want that." And that is, that's very exciting for us to see that sort of just incredible amount of demand out there, pent up
Yeah.
demand out there that we know we're going to unleash as soon as we get there. Exciting from a business standpoint, but even, this is a technology conversation. Very exciting from the engineer standpoint and the scientist standpoint, because that is, that I mean, that's what they're working for, right?
Right.
Developing something that someone's actually going to use to help their lives get better.
Well, I mean, that's what you said at the beginning, right? Your team has a passion for what they're doing. They wake up every morning, and there's a potential that they're going to be working on something that's going to save somebody's life and several people's lives, and prevent such a terrible disease, right? From spreading or becoming worse within the body. So I think that it certainly is something that is admirable, and it would for you as CEO, leader of the company, like that is a jump out of bed every morning for that.
Yeah, yeah, it is for sure. So not only do you get to scratch your sort of technology, engineering, innovation itch, you also know that you're doing this. So this is going to be very meaningful for, in a very meaningful way to so many people.
Yeah.
And then to see it get adopted out there, it kind of like it just pulls all those strings together. It's super satisfying. Yeah.
So thinking about the award, what has that done for the team? Did it galvanize the group to, continue moving forward, or, what did that do internally?
Yeah, I think it does a lot, right? Like I sort of alluded to at the start of our conversation today, the the external recognition makes people proud, right? Like it's sometimes hard to describe to your, just as an employee in a company, to your friends, your family, or whomever, what it is you do, why it's important. Is it really good? Is it not good? We're a small company.
Yeah.
We're sort of in that startup mode. So it's hard to describe that, but getting this external validation gives everyone a little bit of energy. Like, okay, that's great. The fact that we're working on something that matters and
Yeah.
other people are starting to see that matters, is it's very, very exciting. So from the engineers, that's great. And then, there's also this idea I guess in the world in general, within our physician user base, where there's a real desire to be wanting to use the best tools out there to help, their patients. And so this award allows our sales team, and our customer facing team to be talking to physicians about how this is, it's not just me who's getting paid by this company to tell you that is very cool and amazing technology. Other people have also recognized it and
Yeah.
said, yeah, no, this is actually, when we look at it against the rest of the industry, this actually is pretty cool technology and does make a difference and is not easy to have done. And so the fact that you guys were able to take this basic science and turn to, engineer it into something that's useful, I think that's helpful as well. And so customers who use our technology, they feel a little bit of pride to be on the cutting edge. The employees feel, as a company, we feel a lot of pride to be developing something cool and innovative. I think it's really motivating for us to win an award like this.
Yeah, I love. So one of the topics, of course, talking about, how it makes you feel, of course, is near and dear to our heart because, we work so hard to, recognize and honor the companies that are truly making impacts, especially in MedTech. But you touched on something else there that I want to go back to, and that's the expectation from our users and their clients, so patients at this point, that have the expectation that uh, you're using cutting edge technology to solve their problems. And I find that's a big difference. It's one of the common themes that we've talked about a bunch on this show with other winners has been that it's only been recently where the technology in medtech actually has caught up with technology in the consumer side because the iterations can happen so much faster. And to your point about, leveraging AI in your next, on the precipice of being approved by FDA, where it'll be continually improving, and that is such a shift. What have you seen from your perspective in terms of expectations of your surgeons and clinicians that are using the product?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. All of us live our daily lives and we see the advance. We see, the robo taxis, and we see what AI is able to do with respect to the large language models and things like that. So we kind of know what the cutting edge of technology is in our daily life as we're going about it. And then something happens, you get sick, and you have to go to talk to your doctor and say, okay, um, can you fix me? How are you going to fix me? How are you going to be confident that what you're going to do is going to help me get better as fast as possible? Are you using all the new technology I'm seeing every day in my life, not even related to, healthcare, these great leaps and bounds of advancements? And they want to make sure that their doctor is doing everything they possibly can, using every tool out there to help them with, which is probably some of the most important things they'll ever face in their lives. Um, and so it's a little bit unfortunate when that patient goes and talks to the surgeon, and the surgeon or doctor physician says, well, we're doing it the same way we did it for your parents.
Right.
And you're like, well, hold on a second. My parents, or, like I'm just using that as an example, might have had this situation happen to them 20 years ago, 30 years ago, back in the 90s.
Right.
How is that possible? You must have advanced technology. And so it's not just our technology, the whole state of the art is moving, of course, in all of
100%.
these things. But it's very important for people to make sure that all the best tools, and I think everyone recognizes that the pace of technology moving so much faster. The speed is so much faster now than it was 20 years ago, 50 years ago. So
Last
um,
year.
last year, yeah, fair enough, last year. So they're very conscious about this. And I think it's problematic if in one of the most important things you'll ever have to deal with in your life, your health, you're not satisfied that all the technology that's being developed in this world today is being brought to bear to help you with that most important problem or help your loved one with that most important problem. So I think it's being demanded.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think it's being demanded to being used, both by surgeons and patients.
Well, thinking about, these quantum leaps that are occurring and, how it's changing lives so quickly, what are some of the milestones that are coming for Perimeter? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so I talked about the FDA approval of the AI, so that's a big milestone for us. It's a big milestone. It allows us to not only make it easier for our customers to use, but having that AI algorithm trained on all of the images we've got is exciting because it allows, to say it in a very simple way, it allows surgeons that don't think of a rural hospital that surgeon might be doing many, many different types of surgeries. They just don't have the volume of a certain type of surgery, like a breast cancer, right? So their skill level, their ability to do a good job is going to be somewhat limited by the number of times they do that.
Yep.
Um, but a technology like ours allows that surgeon to get much, much closer to the performance of a surgeon who works in a major cancer center in a big metropolitan area, which means those patients that live in perhaps those more rural areas of the country are getting access to much, much better healthcare than they would in the past and much closer to what folks who live in larger cities have access to, right? So for me, that's a really big, very exciting thing that our next generation technology brings. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to from a
Sure.
milestone standpoint. Like I said, we're starting our first market for this technology is really in the breast cancer space, and that's what this FDA, the device we're pushing through approval now is focused on. But the base technology is usable across many, many different types of cancers. And so we've got, there's some surgeons doing some early studies and early looks at different types of cancers. So I think that's the next very exciting thing for me is like, how do we take this basic technology that is, we're seeing performance in one type of cancer and expand it to multiple types. And so being able to not just bring it to patients that have breast cancer, but different types. And that's very exciting for me because at that point now, the market gets much bigger, the number of patients you can help gets much bigger, the number of surgeons that can get access to it, for their practice gets much bigger. And so there's a number of milestones there. The ability to have it being used with different type, gather enough data from those different types of tissues, start to build algorithms around that, start to bring that into market. Very, very exciting times ahead of us. Not only for us as a business, but for our engineers again, and the amount of innovation we can do with that, all those new indications and tissue types.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right. So that means that we'll expect another nomination for 26, right? For
Absolutely.
well, Adrian, man, this has been awesome to hear the story behind Perimeter and how everything has come to market and what's next, man. The future is definitely bright.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Justin. We're super excited about it. We're just at the start of the journey right now. We're starting to see many, many more surgeons use our device in the past, and even more in our pipeline of upcoming users. So it's great to be here. It's great to get the recognition from your team. I know everyone on our side really, really enjoyed that. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, man, it was our humble, ability to do that, man. It was we're so cool to see everything come through, learn more about it. Your team was fantastic to work with as well, and to be named top innovator overall was an honor well deserved. So it was, so thankful that we had the opportunity to recognize and honor you guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
I appreciate you joining me today. We'll have to do this again. You're now part of a pretty exclusive company, and we have a lot of intent to build a community around our winners and keep tabs on them over the years. So we're pretty excited about this. So, looking forward to all that's to come from Perimeter.
Great. Thanks, Justin.
On behalf of my guest today, CEO of Perimeter Medical Imaging AI, Adrian Mendes. You've been listening to Tagged Beyond the Award.
On behalf of our guest today and host Justin Starbird, thank you for listening to Tagged Beyond the Award. We hope you've been inspired by the stories of innovation and leadership shared today. Don't forget to subscribe and join us for more incredible journeys behind the breakthroughs. If you or someone you know is leading the way in innovation, visit tagawards.co to learn more about how to get involved. Until next time, stay driven, keep innovating, and keep reaching for excellence.